This is a Dayton 24/7 Now Code Red weather alert.
A live look from our ODOT cameras now, as we are right now under a code red weather alert due to the heavy rain that we're expecting and even seeing some of that across the Miami Valley tonight. Right now, the roads are a little slick due to some of that precipitation again hitting Dayton here this evening.
And it's not just the rain we're talking about here. Winds are going to be heavy as well, very strong. How strong are those winds expected tomorrow?
Well, by Saturday is really when the winds are going to kick in.
Okay.
Tomorrow's mainly the rain. Kind of a little bit of everything is what we're working with here. But our immediate concern is going to be more of the flooding. So here's a look at our flood watch across the Miami Valley for pretty much the entire region. It was just south of I-70 earlier today, but they expanded it to include most of the area with the exception of Mercer and Auglaize County. This is until 2 p.m. on Saturday. Flooding concerns will continue tonight into our early Saturday morning, so we're going to be monitoring this very closely. Here's a look at the rain. We saw heavier rain already. We got more building its way back in already. The orange-red colors indicate where we have some higher rainfall rates already pushing its way through Montgomery County right now. Again, these are areas that already saw a decent amount of precipitation. Wanted to take a look at radar estimates from earlier into the evening. If you are out, maybe driving around earlier, we had some heavier downpours, radar estimating maybe around 1.5 inches of rainfall there. Further off to the east, just around 1 inch or maybe more north of the Xenia area. And that was just within about an hour time span. So we're going to monitor that rain pretty much all day tomorrow. It's going to be chilly too for kids out at the bus stop, 40s throughout the day. Rain pretty much on and off, could be heavy at times, especially in the morning. But coming up, I am talking about the flooding concerns, how much we're expecting, but river flooding going to be a concern too. We have forecaster Timothy Boyd with us here to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have the National Weather Service gives us these maps, our river basins, lets us know, what stages they reach their flood stage. So Great Miami River right here at Middletown, a foot is its flood stage, and Friday night and into Saturday you can see we're supposed to hit about 12.5 feet. So that would be minor flooding. This one right here, right at downtown Dayton, 32.1 feet is where we're supposed to top off in late Saturday and into Sunday. That is not really going to be a flood threat in that region. But then jumping over to Mad River near Springfield, 8.8, almost 9 feet would be minor flooding for this area. And again, that'll be Friday night and into Saturday morning.
Tim, thanks. And as we get any weather updates, we will, of course, alert you here on air and through our Dayton 24/7 Now app. With that free app, we can get breaking weather alerts sent right to your phone. If you'd like, you can take out your camera, scan the QR code on your screen, and download it. You can also find it in the Google Play and Apple App Stores. We'll also, of course, be providing updates on all of our social media accounts. You can follow and like those pages you see on your screen to get the latest information.
Live pictures over downtown Dayton tonight from our Eco Plumber Skycam, just as city commissioners have approved a new contract for 2 mediators to help improve communication among city leadership and also build teamwork. So residents asked the board for the outside help after commissioners had struggled to pass the city's budget back in December. Clara Faith is live in studio with us now. And Clara, why did city officials approve this contract?
Well, Megan, in December, tensions ran high when city commissioners couldn't agree on the city's 2023 budget. This brought concern to Mayor Jeffrey Mims and other city leaders. During yesterday's commissioners meeting, the board approved 2 $15,000 mediation contracts. Mayor Mims says he is hoping this will bring peace to the board.
For staff who are making presentations, to be able to make a presentation and answer legitimate questions without feeling like they're being interrogated.
So, Clara, how are other commissioners then feeling about these mediators?
Commissioner Darrell Fairchild says despite having muted expectations, he's pleased by the contract.
I think the idea, given what we knew around the conflict, that the mediation could be really helpful.
Now, Megan, I did reach out to the other commissioners. I'm still waiting to hear back. Back to you.
All right, Clara, thank you. Governor Mike DeWine and First Lady Fran DeWine visiting Northridge Elementary School today. They went to check out the district's progress with the science of reading, which is a reformed practice they are using to teach students to read. He emphasized how the data shows that the new way of teaching is working with the school as a whole.
The evidence is abundantly clear that the science of reading is how you teach kids. Whether they're poor readers, whether they're slow readers. I was a slow reader. But the science of reading is how we bring these kids up. And reading is really just the key.
Now, Governor DeWine says he wants to see what this school is doing and implement it across the state. This comes as DeWine signed an executive order today to create the Governor's Children's Initiative, which will develop a program to honor more schools like Northridge that are seeing progress using the science of reading. It's also collaborating with the Dolly Parton Imagination Library of Ohio to develop recommendations and encourage more reading.
In 2021, nearly 4,000 people right here in Montgomery County experienced homelessness. This is according to Homeless Solutions. That's a local homeless outreach program. However, groups and individuals across the Miami Valley are still working to solve this national and local problem. Gwyneth Falloon tells us about this year's 3 Homeless Solutionary Award honorees.
These are the 2023 recipients of the Homeless Solutionary Award. Each was thanked today for their continued work and dedication to end homelessness.
Craig Braunschweiger says he is a retired system engineer and provides technical data support for Montgomery County's homeless management information system. Janine Pickens with St. Vincent de Paul Safe Haven tells me she works to provide transitional housing to at-risk people. The third and final honoree is Dayton police officer Daniel Perry. As a member of the mobile crisis response team, he says he tries to create a connection with a person experiencing homelessness so he can best direct them to the resources they need.
It's our second annual year of doing this, of lifting them up as people who in the field really inspire us by the work that they've done over many years.
According to Homeless Solutions, 3,987 people here in Montgomery County experienced homelessness in 2021.
If you would like to read the full story or hear from the 3 honorees, you can visit our website. That's Dayton247now.com. Reporting, I'm Gwyneth Falloon.
Gwen, thanks. Second Harvest Food Bank hosting its 28th annual Empty Bowls at Wittenberg University this afternoon. Organizers of this year's event were hoping to raise $60,000 for food insecure people living in Clark, Champaign, and Logan counties. There are more than 1,000 beautifully handcrafted bowls available, created by local artists and students. You can buy one for $20. More people are utilizing services offered at Second Harvest Food Bank, so they need your help keeping up. The organization's development manager spoke on the partnership they have formed with the university over the years.
They're great. So, I mean, a prime example is we're in their central dining room and they've closed it for us today, right? They're asking students to go and have their dinner in the Shovelin Center because they've allowed us to have this. So they're just incredibly gracious. You know, they're soup donors as well. They have the whole setup for us, so we don't even have to do it. We couldn't ask for better partners.
Now, if you would like to help, here's what Second Harvest needs the most right now. They need toilet paper and paper towels, personal hygiene items, and canned proteins such as chicken and fish.
Well, an arrest has been made in a more than decade-old murder in Butler County.
Investigators say they have the guy who killed Caitlin Markham. Christian Hauser has the details.
John Carter, the man accused of killing Caitlin Markham, is expected to make his first court appearance behind me here at the Butler County Common Pleas either tomorrow or maybe Monday. Carter was Caitlin's fiance at the time she disappeared in 2011. Markham's father, Dave, spoke this morning on the radio saying that he was in shock at the news of Carter's arrest. Dave says he felt Carter was a likely suspect all along, and if it wasn't him, it must be someone close to Caitlin. Meanwhile, one of Carter's friends, Jonathan Palmerton, is now charged with perjury, but it's not clear what, if any, relation that charge is to the arrest and murder charge brought against John Carter. Now, the big question is, what changed or what evidence was found that led prosecutors to charge Carter with murder? I spoke with Butler County prosecutor Mike Mosier about the case, but he says he was unable to comment because it is an open case. Now, we'll continue to follow this and we'll be in court when John Carter makes his first appearance. In Hamilton, I'm Christian Hauser.
Now, a contractor who was paid to do home repairs following the 2019 Memorial Day tornadoes is a wanted man tonight. Robert Greene was charged with theft after failing to complete repair work that he had been paid for. As a result, Greene was placed on community control. However, police say that he failed to meet his conditions, which then prompted a warrant for his arrest. Greene is now facing up to 5 years in prison for those alleged thefts.
The police officer who filed an aggravating menacing charge against Bengals running back Joe Mixon has been disciplined. The whole thing was reported to have happened at 3rd Street and Walnut Street downtown around January 21st, right before the Bengals played the Bills. Mixon was accused of pointing a gun at a woman and threatening her. That charge was eventually dropped. Cincinnati police said the detective didn't follow orders. It's unknown exactly what the punishment was handed out.
Norfolk Southern is now under fire from lawmakers in Washington and here in Ohio after the derailment last month in East Palestine. Now, the company's CEO has had to answer questions at the Capitol about not only plans to clean up the toxic soil, but also what it's doing to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, and in Delaware County, officials are also asking Norfolk Southern for answers about their cleanup plans there. As Tom Bosco tells us, there is growing frustration as the cars remain on the scene.
More questions for Norfolk Southern, this time not about the derailment in East Palestine, but about one closer to home in Delaware, Ohio, where cars went off the track in January. Now, this happened before the East Palestine derailment. There were no hazardous chemicals involved in the Delaware situation, but county and local leaders want to know when the railroad is going to clean up the remaining cars from that derailment.
Why those cars are still there, we have no idea.
Of course, the railroad coming under heightened scrutiny after East Palestine. The derailment here happening before that one. Nothing hazardous, but still a nuisance. And we're not hearing much at this point from Norfolk Southern. Back to you guys.
Tom, thanks. President Biden celebrating the anniversary of the Affordable Care Act coming up, the impact it's had, and his plan for the future of the legislation.
Also, heavy rain causing some flooding issues on local farms. The impact this could have on customer supply and demand.
And we have our code red weather alert due to that flooding potential, how much we're expecting and when the winds will kick up, too. That's coming up. Here's a live look from our Eco Plumber Skycam. You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
One local farm is right now preparing for heavy rain and flooding, but our local consumer is going to be impacted by this weather. Melena Brown spoke with a farmer and an economist about how the extreme conditions can impact supply and demand.
With the heavy rain that has been hitting this area and continues to hit the area as well as the entire country, many farms are at risk for losing their seasonal crops, like the farm on Central here in Franklin.
The last farm we had in New York in Hurricane Irene back in 2012, we lost over $100,000 due to rain. So it definitely is something that you have to watch for, and it really can affect farming. It can be brutal because you spent that entire season growing beautiful crops, and literally in all it taking a couple hours, that water comes right up and it just disappears.
Fortunately, Kilpatrick has found innovations in hoop houses like the one you see here, where the crops are protected from heavy rain and wind and able to thrive under extreme weather conditions. As for supply and demand, I spoke with an expert on the subject, and he tells me that while rain can cause damage and lead to cost increases, there is no need for panic just yet, as food prices are on the decline overall, and rain usually doesn't cause major issues. For Dayton 24/7 Now News, I'm Melena Brown.
Well, we already saw some heavy precipitation and more is making its way in. So our setup here is a boundary which pushed its way through. You probably noticed we got around 70 degrees today. Now it's a lot cooler. That front's situated just to our south, pretty much stalled out over the area. And then bigger picture here, moisture from the west going to continue to build its way eastward as this front's really not going to budge at all. Eventually, this area of low pressure is going to make its way in, bringing another round of heavy precipitation by tomorrow night, which will also contribute to the flooding potential. So here's a look at what we're tracking overnight. Widespread rain for all of us pretty much. Lesser totals expected off to the north. This will continue for that morning commute, so plan on some extra time for that. It does look like we could potentially see a break around lunchtime, early afternoon, and then heavy rain enters the picture yet again. Tomorrow night, we could see some very high rainfall rates, so flooding on top of the saturated ground, something that will have to be monitored as we do look into our Friday night, early Saturday morning. So overall, going to be very messy over these next couple of days. I'm going to talk about those totals and also some strong winds coming up.
We also took a giant step toward realizing the fundamental principle that we hold as Democrats and as Americans, that health care is a right and not a privilege.
President Biden looking back on 13 years of the Affordable Care Act, the impact it's had and the path forward. He highlighted the record-breaking enrollment numbers with more than 16 million people signing up this year. The president also touting legislation he's championed with measures in the American Rescue Plan and Inflation Reduction Act, helping lower health care costs. That includes allowing Medicare to negotiate prices and capping out-of-pocket costs.
40 million people who have some peace of mind. The Affordable Care Act has been law for 13 years. It has developed deep roots in this country. It has become a critical part of providing health care and saving lives. We always talk about the cost, but it saves lives as well.
Now, the president blasted Republicans who have called for repealing the ACA, saying it could have devastating impact on the American people. He called on the GOP to release its budget proposal. He warns making cuts to Medicare could lead to millions of people losing access to critical services.
Now, the U.S. is facing its first ever debt default this summer, but so far there's been no progress towards steering clear of the cliff. Both sides say a default won't happen, though how to avoid it remains a mystery. Republicans want spending cuts, while Democrats say the ceiling must be raised with no conditions attached. It's been 7 weeks since President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy met on the subject, and there's still a standoff.
I do know that it is important, one, that we not default, but two, that we have a meaningful conversation around the debt, spending reforms.
The debt ceiling date is getting closer and closer. Speaker McCarthy, it's been long enough. Where's your plan?
Now, the House Freedom Caucus rolled out a plan mostly focused on steep spending cuts, but the House GOP has been mostly silent. President Biden's budget proposal contains tax cuts and reforms to Medicare.
Top U.S. defense officials say Chinese leader Xi Jinping's recent meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin sends a troubling message, but there is no immediate threat of aggressive action.
Both the People's Republic of China and Russia have the means to threaten our interests and our way of life. But war with Russia or China is neither inevitable nor imminent.
Military officials say keeping the U.S. military stronger than anything China can field is a deterrence of war. General Milley says China's military has advanced to a world-class army, though he says it's still not as strong as the U.S. military. But they are closing the gap very quickly. There's no signs yet of China sending Russia any lethal aid.
Well, it's already pretty messy out there after some heavier rain earlier. We have more precipitation making its way in. It's going to be a pretty soggy night. So I wanted to talk about those rainfall totals for you. So first round making its way through the overnight hours. This is until 4 p.m. Forecast models indicating likely an inch or so, if not close to 2 inches for our southern counties, lesser totals off to the north. So at this point, the ground is going to be saturated, likely going to have a lot of ponding on the roads for tomorrow morning's commute. But then we have our second round of rain making its way in tomorrow night. Another inch or so of rainfall on top of that. So some places to our south over 3 inches, maybe 4 inches of rainfall, at least 2 for much of the Miami Valley once this is all said and done with. And now once we get the rainfall done with, we're going to also be talking about some strong winds. So tomorrow, wind gusts maybe 25 miles per hour, but heading into our Saturday, we're talking about wind gusts that could potentially be 45, 50 miles per hour. This could cause some localized power outages, some downed tree limbs, but with the saturated ground, some smaller trees could even be toppled over with wind gusts this strong. So we'll want to stay weather aware as we do head into these next 24 to 48 hours.
Natalie, thanks. So local celebrities hit the dance floor this weekend for the 18th annual Dancing with the Dayton Stars. Elise Coulter is emceeing the event, and Good Day Dayton host Hayes Joshi will compete for the coveted Mirror Ball Trophy. All proceeds go to a special wish, helping grant wishes for local children. Dancing with the Dayton Stars is going to be 7 o'clock this Saturday at the Nutter Center.
The Dayton Dragons, they are weeks away from a new season, but the team's longtime streak of sellouts may come to an end this season. Coming up with the Dragons, hope will happen before that home opener.
And Xavier University heading to Kansas City to face Texas tomorrow. Coming up, a preview of the team before they head to the Sweet 16.
You're watching Dayton 24/7 now. Well, the Dayton Dragons, they got a sellout streak dating back to when the team first moved to the Miami Valley, but that streak is in jeopardy tonight. Matt Digby joining us now live in studio. Matt, only a handful of days to find out if that streak will continue.
Yeah, just a few days. You think about the number 1,441. That's the number of consecutive home sellouts for the Dragons dating back to when they moved from Rockford, Illinois to Dayton ahead of the 2000 season. It's the longest streak of consecutive sellouts in all professional sports. The Dragons have had the record since 2011 when that streak reached 815. Executive Vice President Eric Deutsch says there are various economic factors as to why that streak could end, ranging from recent inflation to more long-term effects from the COVID-19 pandemic.
I think we're still seeing some of the COVID effects, some malaise there. Inflation, are we in the recession? What's the future hold? So I think we have had some people, see budgets pushed to limits and certain things have been dropped.
Now, the Dragons say a big part of keeping the streak going could come down to corporate ticket sales. There haven't been as many sold this year in that regard, but they are encouraged by the continued purchases of family packages. Now, the Dragons open 2023 on the road April 6th at Lake County. Their home opener is not until Tuesday, April 11th. Meanwhile, the NCAA men's basketball tournament resuming tonight and continuing through the weekend. Xavier, the last team standing from Ohio in the dance. They face Texas Friday night in Kansas City. Here's Gary Miller with a preview on the Musketeers.
None of the current players on this Xavier squad were on that 2017 team that actually won and went to the Elite Eight. In fact, before this year, only one of them had ever played in an NCAA tournament game. That would be Adam Kunkel, who got in for a few minutes as a freshman off the bench for Belmont. Now he's a starter and a key member of this Musketeer team, and he has to be. Typically, the Muskies play just 6 players, sometimes 7, and get very little from their bench as they go against a very deep Texas team.
I really respect Texas's depth. I would say that among the things that stand out loud and clear is they have 9 really quality players. A lot of times at the end of the game, their leading scorer in the game is a non-starter. So we know that, and our team knows that. Like I said, there's nothing we can do about it other than be the best we can be.
That was Gary Miller reporting the Musketeers have made the Elite Eight 3 times in the past, all since the turn of the century, but they have not appeared in a Final Four in school history.
All right, thanks, Matt. A live look now from our Eco Plumber Skycam as we continue to follow this code red weather alert for you tonight. After the break, we're going to have another look at what we can expect over the next couple days. You're watching Dayton 24/7 now.
The Dayton 24/7 Now News app, brought to you by the Jeff Schmidt Auto Group.
All month long, we want to put mental health in the spotlight. So Dayton 24/7 Now is partnering with the National Alliance on Mental Illness, known as NAMI, to launch Sinclair Cares Mental Health Support and Hope. This is a campaign to encourage mental health awareness with a focus on young adults. NAMI is the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization dedicated to building better lives for millions of Americans impacted by mental illness through advocacy, education, support, and public awareness. So there are lots of resources and support groups available to you right here in the Miami Valley, and you can learn more about them and also find help and hope near you by visiting Sinclair Cares or by scanning the QR code right there on your screen. Be sure to join us this Saturday also for Sinclair Cares Mental